Hey, everybody, welcome back to Off the Wall. My name is Mike.
Hello, and I'm Sol.
And Bogz is doing British things, so while he's away doing whatever it is he does, we're going to give you guys our breakdown of part 3, episode 3 of Obi-Wan Kenobi on Disney+. Full-blown spoilers going forward. I'm not even going to joke about it. Like, if you want to hear our kind of non-spoilery thoughts, we kind of give our overall feeling of of how the show is going in our first episode breakdown. But also, there's just so much to get into with this show and this part in particular, from the very first frame that we can't do it without spoiling. So go watch it, then come back. But please do come back. Part 3, we to kind of recap a little bit, we came out of part 2 scratching our heads a little bit. We had some questions, we had some thoughts and some feelings, and I don't know how well it abated me of those feelings. I definitely liked this episode a lot more than and I liked the first 2 fine. I liked this episode a lot, though. I really liked this episode. So how did you feel?
With this one, I think this is the best episode out of the 3. The first episode I was okay with. The second one I was like, oh, this is way better than the first. And then this one I'm like, okay, this is way better than the second. So if they keep going in an upward trajectory, it's going to be a phenomenal finale.
Yeah, I liked the first episode better than the second, but I think a lot of that is attributed to I really didn't like how the second one ended, but a lot of that with the Inquisitor, it just kind of, the reason I didn't like it, I think, is because I'm scratching my head still. And we don't get any real answer to that in this episode. There's some hints at it, but nothing is still confirmed. It's really not confirmed until the series ends. So if it turns out by the end he's still alive, I'll hold part 2 in a higher regard than I do now. But yeah, going into part 3, we pick up again. We're not wasting any time. Obi-Wan is fresh off learning that Darth Vader, Anakin Skywalker, is still alive, and he's fixing Leia's Lola droid, which is adorable and fantastic. But we continue to have these really sweet moments between Obi-Wan and Leia. How are you feeling about the chemistry between these two, Sol?
I liked it a lot more in this episode, and I think it's just for them being together. Whereas, like, the last episode is when they first meet, so you're not going to have that full-on, I guess, chemistry. I wouldn't want to use that word because I feel like they had chemistry in the last episode, but it wasn't at the same level of this episode, if that makes sense.
It's developing. There's more development in their relationship. Yeah, I agree. He's getting because he's been watching Luke, but he's been watching Luke from a distance, and he wasn't really a teacher when he was when the Jedi were still active. He only ever had one Padawan in his life, and that was Anakin. So it's not like this guy's very good with kids.
Right.
So I think that might be part of it as well. And also with this kid in particular, he's got to be very careful with how he talks to her and how not to let certain things slip up. And he's struggling with keeping his own stuff kind of internalized. So I love the conversation about, like, what does the Force feel like? The whole "have you ever been afraid of the dark?" and then turn on the light. I loved, and I want more of this. I don't know if we'll ever get it, but when he's talking to her about the faint memories he has of his own family.
Oh, yes.
I kind of choked up a little bit. It's very rare in Star Wars lore, whether it's Legends or current canon, that we ever hear anything about these Jedi's birth families outside of Anakin Skywalker. In some of the books that are now Legends, we've had that with a few characters here or there, but never with Obi-Wan. His past life has never been addressed. And yeah, my heart just kind of
that he doesn't remember his father. He remembers a scarf or a hat here, and it kind of weirdly, my brain went to The Last Jedi when Luke is talking about how the worst that happened to the galaxy happened right under their noses in what is the prequel series, and that the Jedi weren't always right, and the fact that they did take these children away from their families at a very, very young age, to the point that they have no, and I guess because they don't want attachment to anything when you're a Jedi, to have that, not have that attachment to your family. And family is so important. We see that throughout Star Wars with the Skywalker family. So it's kind of one of those things I'm like, the Jedi were wrong in a lot of parts. And we're seeing that here too. Like, I wish I remembered my father, but I don't.
Mm-hmm. And he's like, I remember there being a baby. I think I may have had a brother, but he talks about how, like, yeah, but then he got to have a new kind of family with the Jedi. And again, I think that's another great way to really hammer home the loss and defeat that he's been living with for 10 years. The only world it's not like the Jedi were lost and he had to go back to his wife and kids with no job. It's like, no, he lost everything. Yeah. His life, his world ended. And
his brother,
his brother, who was like a son and like a brother to him at different points in his life. And there is that, when Owen says that whole, like, you trained his father, that probably really hit, really hit hard. And but right away at the beginning, Vader is here. Hayden Christensen is back as Vader, and when he's having those audio flashbacks to the prequels in general, as Vader is, what was the word you used, Soul?
Assembling.
He's assembling. He's being assembled. He's being put back together. Which again, I think it's part of you is kind of like, oh, this is so cool, but part of you is also kind of like, oh, this is his life. Like this is his everyday. That is hell. That is a fresh kind of hell. But it's
you see that in the Vader comics too, but like the pain that he has every single day of his life, and how that pain fuels his power.
He is in constant pain. Like, part of what his suit does is it kind of cycles painkillers, in it to help make it. But he is in constant pain. That's why when he's not in the suit, he lives in a back-to-tank. But we get to see Vader's castle is back. We saw it briefly in Rogue One, which hasn't happened yet in the current timeline that we're in. It's Hayden Christensen in the suit. We they've confirmed it's him in the suit. And from what I understand, as far as the voice, because the voice was very James Earl Jones, but very original trilogy James Earl Jones. Because when he shows up in Rebels and in Rogue One, like, it sounds like 90-year-old James Earl Jones.
Yeah.
Like, it sounds old. And from what I understand is they used the same technology for Vader that they did for Luke Skywalker in The Mandalorian, which is basically they have all this digital. They basically are able to use technology nowadays to take the voice of someone, and because they do this with Star Trek as well, with the woman who voices the computer in Star Trek. And they were able to basically take the dialogue and digitally make it match his voice patterns. So
and I think they had him actually do the voice work first before putting the digital stuff over, because I think that's what they did too with Mark Hamill. Is Mark Hamill voiced everything, and then they were like, okay, now we need to digitize this to make you sound like you did back in 1977. It's
like how they did it they just did really creative ADR with his dialogue, but again, it sounds so good. Yes. I love the design of Vader's throne room. And we get a lot of Vader in this episode, and it goes full-blown horror movie by the end. How did you feel about the way Vader was treated in this episode?
I was terrified. And when it was something that I wanted with the Inquisitors in the first two episodes, and I got with Vader in this episode, when he comes to the town, I'm like, everyone's dying. Like, you feel that, like, he's dragging that person along with the Force, or the moment with, like, Obi-Wan dragging him through the fire. I was like, this is terrifying. This is what Lord Vader's supposed to be. This is what Darth Vader's supposed to be. So, like, kind of in that sense, you're just like, this is a scary-ass dude. He's supposed to be intimidating, and I'm getting that on screen. This is what I wanted from the Inquisitors, and I'm getting it with Vader.
It's something that I brought up when I first saw Rogue One, because I remember saying, up all throughout the years, Vader was known as the most terrifying evil being in the galaxy. We never see it though, because all he ever really does is stand in the corner and have asthma. In Rogue One, in the hallway scene, we get some of that, and in then the final scenes of this movie, we really get just how cruel and violent and evil and terrifying Vader is. I mean, he is choking out a dude in the air with the Force and just looks at his son and just snaps his neck. Just kills his kid. Just right there in front of everybody while still strangling the father, drags a woman through the sand, knocks over a tower of crystal fuel or something, whatever the hell it is, tortures Obi-Wan in fire. I mean, this is and I'm sure a lot of that is also because he feels it's so personal for him, because it's Obi-Wan, and we get that in some of the dialogue. I am what you made me. Now you will suffer. Your pain has only begun.
I burned. Now you will burn. Basically.
Yeah. Now you know how it feels, a-hole. It was just so terrifying. This is the Vader that we know from the comic. This is the Vader we know from the Vader Down comic, where he's I'm surrounded by fear and dead men, and he kills 200 rebel soldiers by himself. So I hope we get a lot more of that.
Right.
And then we also see right at the end where Leia is almost made it to the transport and gets head off by the third sister, who had a bit of an up and down episode. Things didn't quite go her way this episode. How did you feel about the third sister in this episode, Soul? I know that's been a bit of a thing we've talked about in the last two episodes, and we'll get into the other stuff later when we're done talking about the episode overall. But and just within the confines of this episode, how did you feel about the third sister?
So for this episode, there was better acting, I feel like, from her in this episode from the first two episodes. I had 0 moments of intimidation from her in the first two episodes. And in this one, when she's not talking, when she's walking to go to the other Inquisitors, like, I was like, this is intimidation. This is like that walk, that step that she has. When she's looking at what is written on the walls, like kind of that moment, I'm like, okay, this is some good acting. A quiet moment that she had, like right after, like, I hope so. I was like, this is good acting. It's when she's other moments that she's talking that I just don't. And I was like, I wrote in my notes, I was like, is it her voice? Is it a cadence? What is it about when she speaks that I'm not intimidated by her? But the quieter moments in this episode, or the moments she's not speaking at all, I'm like, I'm getting some good acting, some more intimidation from her that I was not seeing in the first two episodes.
I almost wonder if it's a testament to how kind and sweet of a person she is. Like, maybe she's just too nice.
Right.
She can't do.
I even thought that. I was like, if she was playing Tala, which that was phenomenal acting. The actress who played Tala, I was like, if she was playing a role like that, I might be like, oh my God, this acting is so great. But I was like, I don't find her intimidating.
Yeah, I'm kind of in the same boat I was last time, where it's when she's having her quieter moments. I think she's really good at being evil when she's not trying to be angry. Yeah. When she's quiet and subtle and just creepy, she's so good. When she's angry, it just kind of comes across as obnoxious.
Yeah.
And again, I think we're going to learn a lot more about her as the show goes on. And I think we get hints of that with when she's looking at the Jedi, stuff on the wall in the hallway there.
But we might get the reasons why she's being more like a petulant, angry child. Kind of, we might get those reasons later on. So a lot of times when it comes to shows like these, I want to hold some of my judgment until the whole series or the whole first season is done, because then I'm like, okay, I don't know all of her story arc beats.
Yeah. I am fully prepared to eat a whole lot of crow after the finale.
Yes, me too.
Like if after the finale, I sit back and I go, all of this makes sense. All was well. Now I can go back and like watch the whole thing Like this is a show that if the finale if the finale sticks to landing, I'm immediately going to go back and watch all at once and like see how it plays out in one big thread. Because right now it's on a week to week thing, and it's like, okay, I'm getting this, and it's interesting enough that I really want to know more. But now we're also 3 episodes into a 6 episode season, so I'm also kind of like, okay, we're gonna get this eventually, but also eventually better come soon.
Yeah,
there's not a lot of time left.
And we saw this with the Marvel Disney Plus shows, is that we're like, okay, they're doing a lot of interesting stuff, but they're running out of time here. Like, we don't need the last episode to be jam-packed full of everything, which is what they've been doing on the Marvel side and not so much on the Star Wars side. So I'm hoping that they're not adopting that from the Marvel side with this show.
Yeah, because as someone who loved Moon Knight, I felt that the finale was rushed. They said because it was the shortest episode of any Marvel series on Disney Plus. They're only doing, and these episodes in general only average like 40 minutes. Mm-hmm. I know they say like 48, 50, but you got to remember the last 10 of these credits. They're putting feature-length movie credits at the end of what is essentially a half-hour show. So I'm still kind of sticking my foot in the ground of either these seasons need to be longer or these episodes need to be longer. Either go to 8 episodes or go to full hours.
¿Por qué no las dos?
Or both, or do 8 1-hour episodes. It's there's a reason why you can have your cake and eat it too here.
Yeah,
you don't need to rush. Don't try to bullet point this shit. Just tell the whole story.
We don't need the Netflix 13 episode season because we saw that was too much.
Yeah,
but I feel like they've learned the wrong lessons, and now it's not giving enough.
They overcorrected. I think they overcorrected. So with that being said, I mean, as far as any other negatives really with this episode, it really just comes down to still not knowing what's going on with the Inquisitor. That's the Grand Inquisitor. That's still because they're talking like, oh, you could be the next one, or I'm next in line. That chair is mine. It's like, okay, so is he dead? Right. Or is we still going to get that revealed? I need some confirmation because that's really going to determine how I feel about this show in general, especially because we also just got the first trailer for Jedi Survivor, which is the follow-up to Jedi Fallen Order video game. The Grand Inquisitor is in that trailer, in that video game,
and looks so much better.
And that takes place around the same time, and so it just kind of furthers that this guy exists in canon after this show is supposed to end. He can't be dead,
right?
He can't. And if he is, and I had to look this up to see whose error this was. So I needed to check to see if Dave Filoni had anything to do with this show, and he doesn't. Dave Filoni has nothing to do with Obi-Wan Kenobi. He's not a producer. He's not a director. He's not a writer.
I was upset with you when I watched that episode.
And that's kind of what I'm wondering is like, because we know they already had to forego one writer for the show because of a similar issue. It's like, did we just trade one devil for another? So where I'm sitting right now, and I'm going to get your thoughts next, is where I'm sitting right now is I need to have this Grand Inquisitor thing. Like, I need to know for a fact, and I'm probably not going to know till the end of the series, which is fine.
Yeah, he's going to be in the finale.
And I just, and I'm seeing improvement with the Inquisitors, the third sister in general. I thought all of them in general were just a little bit better this time. When they were talking to each other at the Fortress Inquisitorius, it's like, okay, this is better. Let's keep that upward momentum going. Mm-hmm. But all in all, I didn't have a lot of things wrong with this episode. I thought it was a pretty good episode, honestly, like beginning to end.
I think it was a pretty solid episode, and mostly it was because of Vader and the absolute terror that you get from him in this episode. So I feel like that, the relationship between Obi-Wan and Leia, you're kind of Tala. So good. I have Indira Varna. Is it Varna or Varma? I'm probably butchering it so much, but she was fantastic. I want to know more about her. Like, I watching this, and I hope she's in more episodes, because I was like, and this kind of like underground railroad for the Jedi, like the fact like you open the back and then there's a tunnel, kind of like I want a comic or a story of how that was working. And the fact too that we got Quinlan Voss, like we got a mention of Quinlan Voss,
guy who had like such a short story arc in Clone Wars, but he was such a cool character,
right?
And it's so great that he's still out there and he's doing what he can.
Yeah, he's alive,
helping. He's helping. Right. She's like, yeah, he helps us out. It's so great. And I also forgot to mention, Obi-Wan is still trying to reach out to Qui-Gon.
Yes,
still, and that's why I'm gonna kind of paraphrase what I heard Dan Merle say on his channel today, which was either we're getting him or this is the biggest bit of trolling that Disney has ever done. Like, if we don't get him, screw you, Disney. Like, that is mean.
I have a theory.
Okay.
I think he needs to get over, and we didn't talk about this, his hallucinations.
Yeah.
Of Hayden Christensen Anakin, not Darth Vader Anakin. And because we saw him there, and I was like, okay, this is why he's being brought back. Why it's not just a body double with James Earl Jones' voice. This is why we have Hayden Christensen. It's because I feel we're going to get a lot more hallucinations. Hallucinations. There we go. English is hard. I speak 2 languages, people. So when he gets over those and gets over his internal trauma, I think that's when he's going to be able to speak with Qui-Gon.
Yeah, I think, I don't know so much if we're going to see Liam Neeson, but I think we're at least going to hear his voice. Because Liam Neeson did reprise the role during Clone Wars briefly when they're on the planet that's like the center of the Force, and Obi-Wan and Anakin are hallucinating. And
was he a voice in Rise of Skywalker? Was he one of the voices?
I don't know. That I don't know for sure. I just know for a fact that Liam Neeson did pop up in Clone Wars to voice Qui-Gon through the Force and all that. So I think it's more likely we'll see him as a voice or maybe some weird CGI Force ghost. But I think it's more likely that I think he's coming, because I do think that, like, to tease him throughout the entire show, to tease him throughout the entire, I feel like the writers would have just been like, look, we can't get him. Let's not make this a big thing.
Right.
Otherwise, again, there's going to be riots. People are going to.
He spoke to him off screen.
Yeah. Okay. Whatever you say, Baron Mordo. So with that being said, we want to take just a brief moment. We alluded to this a little bit earlier, and I'm not entirely sure how to go into this without just it's people are being bad people on the internet, Soul, towards Moses Ingram, who plays Reva the Third Sister. Now, look, we have been on this show critical of her performance, and I want to be clear. I think, and I'm speaking as a white man, but I think it's perfectly fine to be critical of an actor's performance without being a racist piece of garbage. And I think there's a very big difference between the two. It's one thing to say that a person's cadence or performance or speaking style on a TV show or a movie don't work for you. It's another thing to say that this person is ruining Star Wars because something woke racism, something whatever. And there's been a lot of that going around, particularly on YouTube. I've seen some of it. When I was first hearing these rumblings going on, my first thought was, well, all I'm doing is just saying I don't like the performance. Is that what the problem is, or is there actually, like, and upon looking into it, like, yeah, no, this is going on, and it's not okay. And I saw Ewan McGregor posted a video about it, because in the same video, because this was, first of all, this was the most watched premiere of any Disney Plus series that's debuted so far, which is awesome. And Ewan McGregor said in no uncertain words, and I'm going to misquote him here, but basically, if you're one of these people doing this, you're no Star Wars fan of mine, is what Ewan McGregor said. And we've even seen people from Star Trek: Strange New Worlds, the new Star Trek series, coming out and showing support. People all over are showing support for her because these things are happening, these things are being said, and that is not okay. And that's the kind of shit that I would hope in 2022 we were past, and it's clear that we're not. And it makes me sick, and it makes me angry. And if you're one of those people, just stop watching the show. Just stop watching the show and stop posting about it. Just move on with your life. Just move on with your life. Because at the end of the day, nobody cares. Nobody cares. Just move on. Move on with your life. You'll be a happier person for it, and we won't have to listen to you. So that's my 2 cents.
Yeah, when I first heard about this too, because we have been critical, the three of us, Bogz included, and Bogz and I are both people of color, so we were like, oh, are they saying that you can't negatively like criticize the performance of a person of color? But then when you're finding out, oh no, like they're actually saying some racist shit that is not okay. That is not okay at all. There's a difference between criticizing a performance, whether that's negative or positive criticism, and being a racist asshole. Like, there's a clear difference, and I can't speak for all people of color, but I can speak for myself. And a lot of times when you see, when you're being a critic and criticizing, and again, criticizing is not a negative word. It just means being critical of something, whether that's positive or negative. With white actors, you could be like, oh, I like this performance, or I didn't like their performance in this. And you're never really going against them as a person. And unfortunately, that's not the case with people of color still to this day. And so, yeah, we might not like some of the things that the third sister does in these episodes, but I'm going to 100% stand up for this actor and say, don't be saying this stupid ass racist shit to her, because it's not okay.
Nope. And if I catch you doing it, I'm going to call you out for it. If you comment any of it on one of these videos, you're going to get blocked and yada, yada, yada. Like, keep that crap to yourself. I don't want to hear it. I don't want to hear it. Soul don't want to hear it. Bogz don't want to hear it. Nobody wants to hear it. So yeah, I'm not gonna be nice about it. Plain and simple. So to end things on a positive note, or at least attempt to, all in all, I do think this is of the 3 episodes of our best one so far. I am fully excited to see what comes next week. I'm apprehensive about certain things. That's my own shit. But
same as a Rebels fan. Same.
Yeah, but I'm enjoying myself. I'm enjoying the show. And I cannot wait to see what happens next week. I'm so excited for more. Let us know what you think nicely in the comments down below or on Twitter. You can follow me on Twitter at Mr. Mike Shea.
You can follow me at Soul Govin, and just remember, be respectful.
Yeah. Just don't be a dick.
Don't be a dick. Hashtag don't be a dick.
Hashtag don't be a dick. Listen, this is as a staunch atheist, I firmly believe that at least when I die, if I do go to a heaven, that they'll be able to look at my life and say, well, you weren't a dick. Come on in. That's all it is. All there is. Just don't do it. Just don't be a dick. But anyway, follow us. And also, we're on Twitter now. And I'm saying that now and pulling up because I just forgot.
Also, follow Bogz at Bogz. He makes it real simple.
Bogz. It's real easy. And you can follow the show on Twitter at OTW_show. I know that's a little complicated. I spent days trying to come up with some combination that would work on Twitter, and we finally found one. So follow it. If you were already following our old show, the Ultimate Schmodown After Show, which we hosted on John Roca's channel for a while there, it's the same account. So if you're already following that account, you don't got to do a thing. So we just changed it. We repurposed it. We recycled it. We were green about it.
Yeah, we were very green. Very green.
We got one Earth, and somehow changing a Twitter name applies to that. Anyway, follow everything and like and subscribe, all that good stuff. We'll see you next time. Bye.